This is the matchbox, set me afire. And the husband did it. I was blessed because I went to a Hindi medium school. Because when I came here, I'll share it with you. I am a son of refugee parents. We were people who had, I'm not saying the disadvantage, I had the privilege of going to the schools at the lowest rung. But I salute my teachers who taught me there and gave me basic strengths which make me stronger than people who have had their education in English medium schools. In three things. One, I had the average boy studying with me was better at arithmetic in the normal easy calculation than the other fellow was. My teachers gave me a very sound foundation in my own language. In my case, it was Hindi. I later learned Punjabi also. When they taught me English, now this is very important where the gap is coming. The teachers knew their grammar well. They did not pronounce the words the way people who were interacting with English-speaking people would do. The pronunciation was not up to the mark, but the grammar was sound. So when I came out of my school, when I came out of my college, I was better equipped in many ways. I was handicapped in pronunciation. It was not a handicap which is insurmountable. And today, you have, with the digital age, all the means to know. You have the means to improve your grammar. You have the means to improve your pronunciation. You have the means to hear others. I think the linguistic barrier is no longer such as cannot be surmounted. But we must be conscious of that barrier. Because I know lawyers from Haryana, in a criminal case, talking of an injury on the thigh and saying there is a cut on the thigh and the whole court laughing. Or the judge also making fun of the lawyer. These situations do arise. But they also arise when we are talking of a law point and we make a mistake. So this particular linguistic barrier is an issue which I think we address, and I think we can now take care of it in a much better way. Incidentally, today is World's Mother Tongue Day. And I repeat that I was blessed because I went to a Hindi medium school, because I was flooded, I was showered the treasure that the mother tongue has. Mother tongue is the museum, mother tongue is the repository of the cultural DNA. It is so rich with folklore, proverbs, songs, poetry, which is my window to wisdom. So therefore, please do not have an inferiority complex. First of all, if you did not have the opportunity to be educated in an English medium school from the very beginning, there is nothing inherent by way of incapability there, but you must identify it, address it, and look into it. Then the last issue here is, I'll close the confidence part on that, is what gives you confidence at the end of the day. Who is the person when you go to the court? Who is the person whose performance impresses you? We hear lawyers, I still like a young boy, watch certain lawyers in the Supreme Court, some here also, younger lawyers, who present it very well. At the end of the day, I am beholden to a lawyer who has studied a subject well, who goes to the heart of the matter, and who touches the jurisprudence in the case. At the end, wisdom is more than speaking correct English. It is more than putting your facts in a very fast manner. It's something which is more profound, more complex. That is my call on the confidence issue. The second part on which my friends wanted me to open this today was how I have had my journey. I often tell my friends, I have taken irrational decisions all my life. I don't know how I made it. I was in teaching. I am a lawyer's son. I was averse to be a lawyer. And I had some tiff with the management on a copying thing. I fell out, I joined. I did my law in the evening classes in the Kurukshetra University while I was a senior teacher. I came to law. So, second lesson for all of us is, it's not very important that you had a good beginning. It's not very important that you had an early beginning. It's important that you had learned things. It is important that you had absorbed certain experiences which can take you along. And then another thing which some of you might find interesting is, I passed out in 76 December in law, in July 76, enrolled in 76 December, came to this High Court in 78, but I never gave up trial law. I was conducting trials while here all through. And those trials gave me my life's most important cases. One has been mentioned by my friend. I was the special public prosecutor appointed by the Delhi High Court in now Sajjan Kumar's famous case of first conviction, which started at 2010. In 2010, I had to travel all the way. But it was an article of fate for me. It was a spoiled case. But because I had had a lot of experience on that side, I was able to do the case. Everybody else was convicted in a judgment which was unconvincing. He got acquitted. And a very profound judgment the High Court then converted. That was his first conviction. And I always consider that it is this case in the trial court and in the High Court which is the best job I've done. The second part also, you know, I had been appointed again accidentally and surprisingly by the first bench of the Supreme Court in coal cases as a special public prosecutor, both for the CBI prosecutions as also for the Enforcement Directorate PMLA. The second part I could not take. It was difficult to work with them. I somehow got out. CBI matters I've been conducting. There are about 30 trials which are over. More are going on. So my continuation with the trial work has kept certain vistas reserved for me. It has also taught me about criminal jurisprudence from the very bottom layer to the highest place. So this is, shortly speaking, what my history is. It's embarrassing to talk about yourself for two reasons. One is I'm still part of you. I'm not leaving you. So I'm not closing the chapter. The second is, at my age, people otherwise get habitual in making their autobiography. When I was there, when I said this, the other man said this. I want to avoid it as long as possible. Rest is you put me your questions, I am before you.
How important is it for young lawyers to start from trial course and not directly from?
I have been insisting for when people wanted to join me as lawyers. My friend's question I may repeat. He says how important it is for a lawyer to be exposed to trial work. When people wanted to join me, I insisted, sometimes very dogmatically, that they must have some experience in the trial court. And in 1-2 cases, even a high court judge agreed to me, the son was sent. I thought that familiarizes you with the foundational work with which you will eventually feel very enriched. Secondly, you would know two laws, particularly the criminal laws and the classical civil laws, only and only if you have dealt with the matters at the lowest stage. Pleadings, rejection of a plaint, formation of issues, most importantly, burden of proof, amendments, and then the things are built on that. Similarly, in criminal law, my view is if somebody wants eventually to shine out, to become a sound lawyer, either on the criminal side or on the civil side, he must have his start or his association with the trial work. These few exceptions which we now know are like taxation, where people go to the specialized courts, which is again the trial court experience, and the writ, which has thrown up some very good lawyers. That is my experience.
Sir, they say that words are silver, silence is golden. So mostly we young lawyers attribute confidence with arguing very loudly and vehemently. So how important it is to stay silent at the right time in the courtroom?
I think that's a question, which would be very judge relative and case relative. See, you have to prepare and tailor your case. You all have that problem, which I also have. In the evening, you look at the list. Kithe laga case? It's a very, very important query. First, how patient is the judge to really understand how much time will he give me? And that understanding will enable you how to mold your arguments on that particular day. And I think the most important thing, which I learned very late in my life, that is a bad habit which I had to shed up. One of the most important qualities in life is hearing. I learned it very late, I must confess before you. But when I started doing it, I found that hearing is a very, very great aid to learning. So when we hear a judge, every day we are there. When we hear a judge, when we hear the other counsel, we get an insight into the kind of personality the judge has. And there are no hard and fast rules. You have to sometimes be deliberately passionate in your argument. You've reached a point where you are 50, your case is right here. And if now you convince the judge about the justice of your case, probably you got to be a little passionate. I'll not say loud. These are, of course, tests which we all face, and we make our correct or incorrect judgment while we deal with it ourselves. First is the judges. You had a smaller court when I came, and I must share it with you. If you gave a good performance, you were not known, you were a beginner, the judge noticed you, probably because of rush of work, other things. That is a phenomena which is not that common now. And that is a phenomena which makes a huge difference, because if the judge gives you a pat on the back, it emboldens you, it makes you soar, it makes you rise. I remember cases, I was doing a case, I can share the bit of fact with you. The wife said she poured kerosene oil on herself. She said, this is the matchbox, set me afire. And the husband did it. The story may be artificial, but that was the story. Half an hour I told judges, this is a killing by consent. It's in this I almost went through the entire law. Justice Prithpal was presiding. After half an hour he says, we are not agreeing with you, but it was valiantly put. You have probably won many more cases for future. So that bonding between the bench and the bar has waned. I have no hesitation in saying. And I think that is the soul of the system. That's one part. But the other parts which have now, on the positive side is, many young bright boys are there now who from day one, almost every day today, I go to a court, I see a lawyer arguing. I've not seen him earlier, or at least not noticed him. He argues amazingly well. Youngsters some of them are preparing very well. And the tendency not to work is in the easy kind of cases. In a bail matter, lawyer thinks, my lord, no injury caused, my lord 3 months, my lord 6 months. That is where you see very, very dismal performances. The judge will ask a question, how many accused? The lawyer won't know the answer. The general level of preparation needs a lot of improvement today. So the changes are a mixed bag. We are not producing stars, one. We are not producing a large number of middle level lawyers, which we did. But I think we have a lot of raw, good talent now. We might see changes coming in the next 5 years. That's a question which I still won't answer to say I'm performing perfectly, much less imperfectly. But over the years, having been beaten and having gained sometimes, if you are listening, that is why I'm saying, if you're watching, you would be in a better position to make a judgment that this is all. Now you're not gaining anything, you are losing goodwill. That's why I recall that sentence by Justice Pitpal. Please think of your next cases. So my view is, as I said, either you are partners. See, how many cases will I get when I'm alone? As I told you, I was a first level, second generation lawyer. I would get from my father's office, I was very lucky, from my home district, Karnal, from almost all his rivals also a case or two. But how many cases will be there? 4 bails, 3 bails, some appeal. So I have worked only for a week. And I am wasting my most useful period. I think being with a senior is important. And if you ask me the time, I think if you have a good senior, if you have a demanding senior, if you have a hardworking senior, at least 2 years is a probation period which you must impose on yourself. One thing which has changed, now this is a formal senior. I don't know how the things are today. When we came, there was a saying about, because as a young lawyer, I wouldn't say that I'm only doing criminal law or taxation. One would do everything. And one of the set of cases was regular second appeals on the civil side. They were the toughest kind of work, technical. You had to work hard, you had to see section 100, you had to see question of law. One very healthy and very blissful thing which we practiced, which was there were senior lawyers who were known to be masters on that side. There was one Mr. Puri, living in Sector 18. We could go with a problem to him. I didn't know him. I would only wish him here. The tendency of a senior lawyer listening to you, guiding you, it's not absent today, but it was much more frequent at that time. So there may be a formal senior, which I think is necessary, but much more important than that is, please go to 4 people, 5 people, 3 people, understand the subject with which you're dealing, delay it, bother yourself, don't sleep, because at the end of the day, it is this particular hard work which is going to mold your case, which is going to decide what happens. Sir, I have applied my mind to it. I'm in fact technically not very savvy, but eventually the way I'll compare them is, the best of cameras, the best of techniques will not make Picasso redundant. Painting will not go out. The difference is there. Even when, as we know AI, we put facts, the husband, wife separated, kid born, this happened, that happened. The answer will be to the general questions, the answer will be in those terms. Similar cases would get similar responses, but identical cases and non-identical cases, subtle differences, which probably go to the root of the matter, will take time. So it's like any machine and human being giving himself entirely up to the machine. But my answer is tentative. We are still at the very initial stage of artificial intelligence. But if we take it as an aid, well, it will make our burden lighter. But to my mind, the precondition still is the final draft must have the touch of the lawyer.